My name is Jamin Goecker. I'm an associate real estate broker in the state of Alaska, and my mission is to help you to build an intentional and significant legacy for yourself and your family by coaching you in real estate. And today, we're going to be talking about what's going on in Eagle River as the Eagle River real estate market and give you an idea for what's going on in all the different sectors, looking at the residential, the condo, and the multifamily market. Before we get started, though, as always, give this video a like, subscribe, do all that good stuff. It really does help with the algorithm. And let's go ahead and jump into today's market update. Now, looking at the residential market, the first thing we see is that this time last year, there were 56 properties available on the market. Now it's 46. And this is a trend we're starting to see it tighten up a little bit where the inventory is starting to creep up. So maybe what it was the year before. Now, the year before was still record low, so it's not necessarily, we're seeing a huge flood of inventory. But, that is a trend that we're starting to see go up just a little bit. So let's encourage that. Just to give you an idea how small the inventory is in a historical point of view, this time of year, we usually see about 140, 150, somewhere around there. So we're still about 30% of where we usually are. 25, 25, 30%, somewhere around there. Now, the next thing we see is that this time last year, we had about 39 homes that actually sold, transferred ownership, all that good stuff, and now it's 32. So kind of the same thing with the number of properties that are available, starting to tighten up a little bit. Not a whole lot, but starting to tighten up a little bit and start to get a little bit closer to doing what we did the year before. Historically, though, still pretty low. This time last year, the average sold price year to date was about $468,000. This year, it's right about $498,000, which means we've seen about a 6.3% increase for the average sold price in Eagle River. Now, this is a bit of a slowdown at the rate at which it's increasing, not going down, just the rate at which it's increasing is slowing down a little bit, and that's to be expected when the interest rates did go up. Now, the interest rates going up hasn't had the effect of prices just suddenly coming down because, home sellers will have to do that because buyers can't afford it, and so on and so forth. And honestly, supply and demand is going to trump a lot of theories that we have. And the fact of the matter is, because interest rates did go up, those homeowners are just holding on to their homes that much tighter, and they're not letting them go, which means the total inventory is really low. And buyers, yes, there are less of them than what we had in 2020 and 2021, but it doesn't really matter because the supply is still less than what the demand is. And that's just kind of is what it is. I'm not really expecting to see a change in this anytime in the near future, unless interest rates suddenly just drop ridiculously low and the sellers decide the getting's good, so it's time to go. But even then, you're just going to have a lot more competition with buyers, with other buyers hopping into the game at the same time. Now, real quick, I just wanted to point this out. In 2019, the average sold price year to date was about $381,000. And again, the average sold price now is about $498,000. I say that just to give you an idea just how aggressively the appreciation has been in Eagle River the past couple of years. I know a lot of you heard the advice from some people saying, well, just wait till the crash happens and then hop in and you're going to clean up. This is just going to be like 2008, 2009. That has not happened. And let's talk and see how best you can position yourself as we're moving forward. You're not going to get that great appreciation that we could have back then. And I understand the reasoning for a lot of people and wanting to just wait till the competition was low. But the problem is the competition isn't there as much, but still kind of in a similar position. So we'll talk more about this in the summary. I'm just saying if anyone gave you the advice that you should just sit back and wait till everything collapses and then you just clean up afterwards, I'm not going to advocate violence, but I am going to say you probably need to have some strong words with some people. Now, switching gears and looking at the condo market, we see that this time last year there were 7 condos available on the market, and this year there are 9. So there you go. If you're looking to swoop into the real estate market in Eagle River, that might be your best area of opportunity, maybe for the moment. A lot of the condos are pretty new, and they're more or less kind of in the downtown, off of the old Glen Highway. And yeah, that's going to be where you see a lot of them showing up. So it's a great little area to be in. Now, the number of condos that have actually sold, this time last year it was 3, this year it's 4. So again, starting to see a little bit of an increase there, not a whole lot. I suspect that we're going to see a real increase in the number of condos in Eagle River pretty soon here because the land that we have to develop is starting to become a little more limited, and the only direction you can go is up at that point. So I suspect we're probably going to see more condos in Eagle River in the coming decades. The next thing we see is the average sold price for condos in Eagle River went from about 290, I think it was like 298,000 last year to about 301,000 this year, which means we're sitting at about a 1.3% increase for condos. Now, the one thing I will point out, when we have such a small sample size, just the type of condos that were sold makes a really big difference, and it's really hard to start extrapolating a lot of statistical, usable data when the sample size is just so small. It really can come down to just, last year it was all new condos. This year it's some reused, resale condos. And so that can have an impact on everything, obviously. So I would expect to actually see a more aggressive appreciation for condos, but it really comes down to the specific properties in question that have actually sold. Let's go ahead and take a break real quick here. The past couple weeks, I've taken a bit of a break from creating podcast material, but we're going to be producing more of that content in the near future here. In the meantime, do make sure you go check out those podcasts that we've already created over the years, and that's going to be a great place to start as you're eagerly anticipating the upcoming episodes that we'll be having. Now, let's go and finish today's market update, looking at the multifamily market and talking about the summary and what all this means for you as a buyer or a seller. Now, let's take a look at what's going on in the multifamily market. Now, before we jump into this, I'm just going to say multifamily in Eagle River, it's never been a particularly big asset class, and the reason for that is that multifamily is really just not the vibe of the tribe. Over in Eagle River, it's highly desirable if you're a tenant because it has a reputation of being pretty manageable, pretty easy place to live, and but it's still just not a whole lot of multifamily properties to begin with. As a landlord, it's really desirable because it has a lower cap rate, which means you're not going to make as much, but also you're probably going to have way less of a headache in dealing with it, and that just shows up in the data, and that's what a cap rate means. Now, what we're seeing is this time last year there were 3 multifamily properties available, and now it's 4. So yay if you're looking to be a landlord in Eagle River. This time last year, 1 multifamily property closed, and this year we're actually seeing it is 0. So I haven't sold any multifamily properties in Eagle River, at least for the month of October. Last but not least, we see the average sold price for multifamily properties in Eagle River went from about $606,000 this time last year to about $429,000 this year, which means seeing about a 29% drop in the average sold price. You guys have watched a lot of my videos at this point, and we've kind of talked about what a difference it makes when you have a super small sample size, especially when we're looking at the multifamily. I'm just going to say it again, though. When we're looking at multifamily, it includes everything from the duplex all the way up to like the big 10-unit, 30-unit property, and so it's really hard to extrapolate a lot of useful information. I'm just looking at the high 30,000-foot view here stats. Once we start diving into it, I'm sure you'll probably see a pretty good increase for average sold price in Eagle River because the rents are going up, and that makes the properties more valuable. And Eagle River is a pretty desirable place to live for tenants, landlords, everyone else, so I suspect not seeing a decrease, probably seeing a bit of an increase, but it really depends on the specific properties that we're taking the stats from. All right, let's go and talk summary real quick here. So if you are a buyer, you're starting to see a bit more options available out there, and that's a welcome return. If you are in a position where you can jump in right now and get something, this is not a bad time to do that. And the reason I say that, and it always sounds self-serving, I know there's always people rolling their eyes and saying, oh, it's another real estate agent saying it's a good time to buy. And yeah, of course they're going to say that. But the reason I say that is because, yes, the interest rates are up, but also if interest rates suddenly come down, we're not likely to see a big influx of inventory suddenly hitting the market, but the interest rates come down, a lot of buyers are suddenly going to jump into it, so you'll have a smaller amount of inventory than what we had in 2020 to compete with, and you'll still have all that competition from everyone else. So absolute insanity if the interest rates suddenly drop down low. But if you have a house right now where the competition isn't quite as high, maybe you can get some closing expenses paid for, you can have some things repaired that you might not be able to otherwise. Now you have the ability to just refinance at that point, get a lower interest rate, and just kind of watch on your porch as everyone is competing like mad people trying to get into a property, and they're having to pay $20,000, $30,000, $40,000 over asking price and put in all this extra money and waive having anything repaired and all this other stuff. So this is a good time to be jumping in. I personally would really recommend this to anyone that's looking if you're in a position where you can actually make it happen. Now, if you're not in a place financially where it makes sense, that's a different issue. If you are and you think you're just going to time the market, I'm going to give you advice from investors, and that is, it's not about timing the market, it's about time in the market. Okay. Once you buy a piece of property and you hold on to it long enough, you're going to look like a genius either way. So just make sure it's the right property and it's the right move for your family, and we'll figure out the rest from there. Now, if you're a seller, still a really strong seller's market, as you've probably surmised. That doesn't mean you can just get away with anything at this point, like we could back in 2020, 2021, where you just kind of threw a price against the wall and see if it stuck. We have to make sure that we're on point with the price, on point with the marketing, and you have to make sure things are ready. And so it's a little bit different from what it was a couple of years ago. So just because, your neighbor didn't have to do anything and all this happened and they had like 30 offers or something like that, doesn't necessarily mean your experience is going to be exactly the same. So it's kind of tempering expectations and making sure we're taking advantage of the stuff we can take advantage of, while also not having over expectations that robs you of preparing for the reality of the moment. Now, if you're an investor, you got some options here in Eagle River. It's kind of a matter of who you know. So let me know if you have any questions about trying to get into the investing scene in Eagle River. This has been your market update. Thanks for watching. Let me know if you have questions. We'll talk with you later.